we just want to meet you. Tell us your name and what NMGS is all about.
Okay. My name is Professor Akinade Olatunji, the president of the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. The Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society is the umbrella professional society for all geoscientists, geologists, geophysicists, engineering geologists, and of course mining engineers and metallurgists. The society was founded 15th of January 1961 by 10 individuals. 7 of them were mining engineers, 2 metallurgists and 1 geologist. And over the years, the society has been involved in policy advocacy, policy support, and of course in molding opinion in the geoscience and mining profession. That's what NMGS is.
Thank you, sir. So when we talk about the mining sector, we cannot underplay the role of geologists.
Yeah.
So can you just give us like the brief overview of the sector, highlighting the challenges and also the level of government support in policy implementation and the role of NMGS in advancing the sector? So that's like about 3 questions.
Yes, this loaded. Number 1, as you said, geologists are very key to finding where the minerals are. To find the minerals, you need a structured approach. The structured approaches to do this could be geophysical, could be geochemical, could be whatever. But you must have a structured exploration approach to finding where the minerals are. Not only finding where the minerals are, finding the quantity and quality of the minerals. Because it's not all mineral occurrences that is profitable to win. Some may just be occurrences that will just be there. You cannot mine them profitably. So before you get to a level whereby a mineral occurrence becomes a resource for you to mine, a lot of investigation is involved. And those are the work that geologists do. Now, for us as geoscientists, as NMGS, how will be able to help in that regard? As I told you, this society was formed by 10 individuals who were in the mining sector mainly then. And the reason was because they wanted a voice for the Nigerian experts in that sector. Having just gained independence from the British colonial masters, it was a year into independence, they felt there needed to be a national approach by a group of Nigerians who will help that sector to grow. And most of the individuals that were there were managing director of the Nigerian Coal Corporation, managing director of the Nigerian Mining Corporation, and the rest, the 10 consolidated industry, were the people that actually formed the NMGS. And their early activity in those cities actually assisted in moving the sector forward. But that came into the background when oil was finally discovered. And a lot of people shifted their attention from the solid minerals to the oil industry. Because government moved away from focusing on the solid mineral industry, the field was taken over mainly by scavengers and what they call artisanal miners now. And very, very formal method, crude method. You see them invading the environment with their crude implements. No care whatsoever for the environment. No rule applies. They risk their lives. No PPE, nothing. So until in the late 90s now, when government started, okay, let us restructure the sector, when the new mining law was promulgated. So it is that new mining law that was set out to now see if they can correct the descent into chaos that we are having. And this is a bit difficult. Bad habits is very difficult to correct.
True.
And when you now bring in a law to correct that, of course, you know that there will be resistance. And more of what we have now is actually more of the law being even breached by people. So we have a perfect legislation, perfect law, perfect regulation. But what we lack is the effective implementation of the law. And the reason is that government is yet to be persuaded to see the sector as a sector that can actually challenge the oil and gas sector. It was because of the fall of the price in oil that, okay, we have some other things. Let's look at this. But when the price of oil went up again, they looked away. So, and for you to harvest resources in the mineral sector, it has to be intentional, continuous action, investment over time. It's not a sprint. I used to tell colleagues who come for some consultancy with me that, they say, I have this mining license. I say, are you ready for a marathon? It's not a sprint. It's not buy and sell it. It's not bring me 2 containers from China. You dispose it over at Bariga, you make money. No. It's a marathon, consistent investment over time. The minimum number of years for a mine to go from exploration to production is 6-7 years. How many Nigerian businessmen can wait for that long? And they are not talking about chicken change money. They're talking about real hard currency, because most of the resources you're going to use are not only Nigeria. So that has not made the work of the people in government to formalize the sector to be easy. So you see people who have a small-scale mining license, instead of them to take their time to do preliminary stuff, they go and bring scavengers to come and scavenge the land. So most of the investors in the sector do not really understand that this thing is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and there are steps. It's a step-by-step approach, which will now lead you to the one step will lead you to the other, one step will lead you to the other before you now make your final investment decision. That's what. That number 2, because we don't have a mining ecosystem that is mature, it's difficult for people to get finance. So financing the sector has been more of ad hoc, family kind of borrowing and all those stuff, and that's not sustainable. You can also not run mining activity with the kind of 2-digit interest rate we run in Nigeria. Nobody does that anywhere in the world. The investment to run exploration work is usually within first to 5% interest rate. In fact, sometimes even less than, because they see it as a long-term investment. There's no Nigerian bank that's going to give you that kind of loan. We all know what the Nigerian banks are interested in, and because of lack of knowledge, even on their own part. So financing has been very problematic. And I think government wants to try to solve that problem with SFDF, but it's still at its infancy stage. But seriously speaking, the kind of finances that is needed for the mining sector should be private sector driven. Should be private fund. And that's why I like the idea by the minister who says that Nigerian mining companies should also begin to look at the opportunity of creating their own banks. It's not impossible. If 2, 3, 4, 5 mining companies who have done very well pull resources together and say, so let us set up a mining development bank. You understand what I'm saying now? Because the people who are setting up the bank understand the intricacies in the sector, it should be easier for them to operate with the people. They're not the kind of banks we have now. Nigerian banks now, 90% of them just want to do container import financing. That will never work in the mining sector. So finance is key. Then, of course, as I said, bad habits, it's difficult to change from bad habits. So, but continuous engagement with stakeholders, continuous engagement with people there, will bring some form of order into the sector. As NMGS, what we have been doing is that every year, when we run our conferences, we've always taken teams that move around all the various sectors where the NMGS operates. You know, people think that NMGS is about mining alone. Well, that's not true. But it's a core, one of the core processes of what we do. So we take teams that revolves around the DCS team, for instance, the transformation of the mineral, the first one, oil and gas, energy, water, environment, and whatever sector through innovation. So we want to look at how can we have homegrown innovative ideas to run the industry such that people who are just managing to go by from little bit of application of innovative means can increase their productivity or reduce the cost. There are 2 ways of making money. It's either you reduce your operational costs or you increase your winning. So, but you can only do those things, you can achieve them only by innovation. So that's why we said, okay, let's look at innovative methods. And there's nothing strange about innovation. It will just be redefining your processes alone and getting the best out of it. So that is one of the ways we have been working with government. And of course, all the legislation that have been done so far, the mining laws or the mining regulations, none of it were done without our input. So as NMGS, we have worked closely with government in achieving that. And I'll keep working with them to advise them appropriately. But there cannot be two drivers at the same time.
Sure.
We can advise as much as possible. And as one president said one time, you are an advisor. I can either take or reject your advice. That is the way it is.
Okay, thank you so much. So flowing from this conversation, because you've already mentioned quite a lot of challenges in the sector. Now, on the issue of the scavengers, in quotes, the artisanal mine, I remember there was a time we had a conversation, it was a conference, and they told us that they are not illegal miners.
That's why they don't use the word illegal.
Yeah, so they are informal miners. So we have a lot of policies, like you mentioned, but then there's issue with that effective implementation of some of our laws and policies. So in your own view, how can we formalize the ASM sector to ensure that, it curb some of their illegal mining activities? So I'm going to ask two questions in one. The second one is, from some of the reports we have written, we find some of them saying that it is difficult for them to get mining licenses due to a lot of bottlenecks and the bogus process. So how then do we improve transparency and accountability around mining, the licensing management?
Okay. I'll always be very careful when I want to answer this kind of question. Number one, most of the guys who are involved in artisanal miners, most of them are not lettered. When I mean they're not lettered, is that they're not educated. They gain their expertise from working in mines, maybe with their fathers and the rest, and they became good at it. For somebody who is not lettered, yes, that person will have a problem applying for a license. Because it has to be, you must be educated to apply for a license. So if that is their own basis of complaint that the license is difficult, fine. But I think Nigerian licensing process is one of the simplest processes. It's very simple. You identify an area, you pick the coordinates, you do your due diligence with mining cadastre. They tell you the place is free. Then you have a list of things you need to submit, community consent, and all those stuff. If you submit your application through the EMC, get your license. I don't think there's any opaqueness in the way the license is in this door. But the Nigerian people are, we like to circumvent rules. If you tell people go from point A to point B along a straight line, I am telling you 90% of Nigerians will do a zigzag crossing to get to point B. So it's not about the opacity of the law. It's just that Nigerians have a penchant to disobey laws. So the process is very simple, and it has never been automated. So to promote accountability and transparency. So I don't think they will have any problem. Yes, we can fine-tune it. Yes, we can make it maybe more robust. Of course, those are things. But when you talk about transparency, about license and the rest, I don't think there should be a problem with anybody who has genuine interest in the sector and apply for a license. Most of the people who complain are people who do not have. And I always tell people, if you're not going to do something, you can ask for help. How many of those people have experts advising them? How many of them have geologists or mining engineers working with them? So they don't want to pay for that services. Of course, you can't enjoy the benefits that is coming from that kind of stuff. So that's why many of them complain that they have this issue. But government is trying to do something. I think government have been trying to put them into cooperatives. They say government want to carve out areas and say, okay, we are carving out these areas and we are giving it to artisanal miners. Instead of you applying as an individual, they will ask you to form a cooperative. They give it to all of you. Then you run it as a cooperative. Whatever you get there, you sell to government and but Nigerians, we have this competitive spirit. We don't like doing things together. That's another major challenge. We like same thing even with the big companies. You have two companies with little strength, instead of them to coalesce and maximize and optimize their strength. Both of them want to fight the battle alone. And in the process, they cannot win. So I think the competitive and non-cooperative character of Nigerians in doing business together has been the major challenge to this cooperative idea by the federal government. But with the way it is going now, people may have no choice but to band together to do things. Let me give you an instance. In the past, if you have one CU, cadastral unit, Maybe how much will you pay? Maybe less than 10,000, 20,000. But now, with the new regime, many people are dropping their licenses because you don't want to put your money on what you have not even verified. So in that case, speculators are being weeded off from the system. The only people who are serious would not come forward to collect licenses. So for me, it's a good thing, and I would think that if the government continue to implement it, there will be some sanity in the system.
Okay. So when we talk about mineral resources, I mean, we know that Nigeria is blessed. We are rich.
So we used to say.
So we used to say.
If Nigeria is blessed, what we say Congo is.
Yes, but I think looking at what we have currently, I can say Nigeria is hugely blessed when it comes to mineral resources. But it's so, I'm looking for the right word to use now. Despite these mineral resources, it's really so sad that we don't have that huge investment in the sector. When I say investment, in terms of, having large mining activities going on. The closest we have is this Egilola, which is this gold that we have. So, but then what are the major geological constraints hindering, large-scale mining investment in Nigeria, in your own view?
I don't think it's geological constraint.
Okay.
It's more of political and economic constraint. Success attracts success. I'll give you a typical example now. Look at the cement industry. Prior to the 90s, you have only, you can count all of them on one hand. Ewekuru, Portland Cement, and the rest. When Dangote came in with the Obajada cement plant, and they bought over the Benue cement, and started the Bichi cement, what happened? Those cement companies that were saying they don't have money to expand started looking for money to expand. And recently we were told that even the former Lafarge has been bought over by a Chinese company. Now what I'm saying is that success attracts success. When people see someone make a headway, how come it will attract more successes? Why we have not been able to achieve the kind of inflow into the solid mineral sector is that there are very little success stories that are known. Okay. You mentioned Segilola. Segilola is known to all of us because it is quoted on the stock exchange. How many of the companies do we have quoted on the stock exchange? I think there's another one. I can't remember the name now, but it's also quoted on the stock exchange. Do we hear their story regularly? Do they report? But because Segilola is quoted on the Canadian Stock Exchange, they have to be transparent with their stories. They have to give their reports regularly. Yes? So that makes us to know about them. But when you have 2, 3 Segilola, for instance, you can be sure that people will look towards Nigeria.
True.
So and that's why some of us say that when the country goes out to these road shows, I keep saying that, I will say it without apology, rather than pack the road show filled up with people from the ministry, we all know why they all go there anyway. Why not take companies that are running operation properly and make them to be part of the team? So that when others come and say, okay, this person is operating in Nigeria, this person is operating in Nigeria, and you're able to cope, they will interact with them. And from there, they will be able to come in. But you go to road shows with the people from the ministry who will tell them about inspection. Many of them may not even, I'm sorry, many of them may not even stay at the booth itself. How do you attract investors in that regard? So that's why I said we should look for national champions. These national champions should be encouraged to do these road shows with government, and we should talk more of their success story than all the challenges we're having. It's not only in Nigeria we're having security challenges with the mining sector. It's globally. But here we're up more the negative than the positive. So if we promote these national champions who are doing very well, you will be so shocked that, okay, the first thing people will be saying that, okay, you are doing very well. Is there a way we can partner with you? The way you are partnering with us, okay, is there a way we can also come and take our licenses? That's the way to grow the success story. And we just pray that more success story like that to Segilola will come. But look at what is happening to Segilola himself with the state government in Osho State. So is that a good story? So these are the kind of things that are, I was saying this at the last press conference we had. I said, the president is going abroad to look for foreign investors. The Minister of Solid Minerals is going abroad to canvass for foreign investors. State government are busy banning mining in their state. So if I'm a foreign investor, will I bring my money to a country where there is incoherence in their policy? I will not. I will not. What we need daily is that this state government has banned mining in their state. That's which they don't have the power to do. But they use the instrumentality of security apparatus under there to coerce those people to stop operation.
So how can we prevent this in the future? When I say this, that's state interference into the mine, because we all know that mining is on the exclusive list.
Yeah.
So yes, how do we then prevent
education?
This? Education.
I keep saying this.
And
Most of the governors are not knowledgeable about the law itself. They think that, okay, yes, government owns the minerals. Maybe it's my land, because the Land Use Act vests the power of land with them. And many of them, I'm sorry to say, are also not altruistic in their pursuits. Are they doing what they are doing for the sake of the state or for personal reasons? That, I think the jury is out on that. The question is, if a state government wants investors in their states, what you will do is that rather than for you to go using the brutish manner, you engage the people and talk with them and ask them the kind of things you can benefit from. But the way they are going about it is like, no. So how do we prevent that? We prevent the law. And I think, to be serious, operators should not begin to look at the law court to challenge some of these state authorities in the way they are. But you know, the Nigerian judicial system can be in the court for 10 years. In fact, I remember a former president, I'm quoting him for the second time today, when they were supposed to sack the YASU 42, they said, sack them, let them go to court. And they were in court for 9-10 years. They had even left office before they were reinstated, and some of those guys died in the process. So sometimes when an investor wants to challenge the state government that is interfering, they look at it, why not just let me settle than to go through the legal process? So I think that's also a problem. If the legal structure is such that it doesn't promote people to assert their right, maybe we have to compromise ultimately. So it may be a bit difficult to prevent state, but as I said, education from the federal government's part, education and engagement from the private sector part, and maybe for what we do also, engaging state governments as a professional body to let them know that this is not the best path to tread. Maybe that will help.
Thank you. So in December last year, the president was in France.
Okay.
And both countries signed an MOU to diversify the critical mineral value chain. This has generated a lot of controversies among professionals like you. So, but then, what do you think? Do you think what's going to be the impact of this MOU on the industry?
Okay. Have you seen the MOU?
I haven't. I have not.
You see, it's good for government to sign MOU with governments. But in the spirit of transparency, those MOU should be made public. Most of what we have always heard about this MOU is that they will partner with us in trading. Nobody have seen those MOUs. If the MOUs are transparently drawn and it will bring benefits to the country, why not? There's no country that's an island. Forget what Trump is trying to do. No country can, on its own, behave as if you can do all. No. There is this relationship across the globe where countries will have to batch together to do things. I don't think it's a problem if France is interested in working with Nigeria or critical minerals. But the question is, what does it need for us? Is it that they're going to come, mine and take away those things like they used to do with their colonies? Or they want to partner with Nigeria to mine this stuff, use it in Nigeria for the growth of both countries? So that was said, we need to see the MOU. I have not seen the MOU, and it's always very difficult to comment on what you have not seen. But because of the past bad behavior of France on the African continent, people are always very suspicious of France. That they want to exploit us. But the Nigerians are smarter than Francophone countries. They can't outsmart Nigerians. That much I'm confident about.
So there is the global shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And so with this growing focus on climate change and the green economy, how do you think Nigeria can also align its policy for sustainability, for global sustainability?
Very, very well. I think one of the things I mentioned when I actually became president was that government should ban all exportation of raw minerals. I never knew they were listening because about 2 months later, government actually came out with a policy and said that there should be no exportation of raw minerals any longer, that there should be value addition. That shows that they are listening.
True.
And, or maybe our thoughts were coalescing at the same time. I don't want to take the glory for what I don't know how it happens, but at least government has banned exploitation of raw minerals, that minerals should be processed before being exported. Now, that is the beginning. How can Nigeria leverage on that? You see, I like what the former minister did when we had it in the news that Tesla wanted to come and buy Nigerian lithium. He said, no, come and build the battery factory here. That's the way to go. We can call the blunder of the richest man in the world. That is the way to go. If you say you want to exploit us, we should benefit from it. If we have the battery factory in Nigeria, definitely we're going to be users of the batteries ultimately.
True.
And it's going to add more values, create more jobs, create more economic benefit, rather than taking the raw minerals out. I think that's the policy of government, but how well it's been implemented is another thing. Because a lot of raw minerals are still living in this country.
True.
A lot of raw minerals are still living in this country in huge quantity. And we must stop that. Then we seem to be endowed. I want to use that language. I'll be very careful. We seem to be endowed with some of these minerals that are needed for the green technology. The pegmatites are rich in lithium, and some parts of the country will also find them having copper in them, which are the basic green minerals that are needed. But how much have we committed to knowing what is the quantum of lithium that is in Nigeria? I've never seen a single report that categorically says that this is the reserve of lithium we have in Nigeria. None. I've seen snippets of reports from NIME where they tell you that there is this grade of lithium here. But what is the reserve? How many of us can beat our chest like we do in the oil industry that we have so billion barrels of oil? Can we say the same thing about our mineral resources? Maybe limestone. But even the limestone, are we sure? Because we have not done the real work we need to do. So, for us to maximize the benefits therein, we must put in the work. We must explore, and get those data sets. And I'm sorry, I'm going to punch the journalists here. Geology is serious business.
Yes.
It's not poetry. If I tell you there is 1,000 metric tons of iron in the air, by the standard of ethical approach, I should be about 99% correct.
True.
If I tell you I have 10 billion deposits of whatever materials as a geologist, if I'm less than 80% sure, I'm supposed to be dismissed. Because what I'm trying to do is to create unnecessary anxiety. There's money there. Well, at the end of the day, there's nothing. So what I'm saying today is that we must be serious. When we say we have this particular mineral, we must be able to see it based on the empirical data. We don't have those data. And if you don't spend money, you don't have those data. So this year, the government has increased the budget for the Ministry of Solid Mineral Development to $1 trillion. It has never happened before. But we need to be cash backed. We need to release the fund. With the Ministry of Finance release the money, we need not be saying, no, it's not priority. So if we can spend the real money in exploring, then we can be sure that we're going to have the data. I still tell people that for me, we have hardly scratched the surface in Nigerian mineral resources endowment because we don't have the data. So if we spend the money on acquiring data, I'm sure we're going to get. And of course, we should insist that those minerals should be processed and used in the country.
Thank you. So for platforms like AIT, that's the annual international conference organized by the society, Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. So it provides a platform for stakeholders to discuss emerging issues.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with somebody recently, I don't know, maybe it was even you, that said conferences are now becoming like a show. I mean, we just want to stretch our legs and have conversations and just have small reunion. But then how do we ensure that this coming 68th AICE does not go in the way of others? How do we ensure that recommendations turn into actionable insights?
Fantastic. When we're deciding on where we're going to have this conference, there were a lot of options. We said, no, we want to stay in Abuja.
Okay.
That Abuja will be the best place to have your 68th conference. Why? This is a seat of governments. Because we want all the major government officials to be on ground, to listen. You know, we have transited from ignorant ministers in the past to knowledgeable ministers. Most of the ministers you have now, 90, even not 100% of them, I don't think there's a minister that does not have a minimum of first degree now among the current ministers.
True.
In the past, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because somebody will say your mineral resource is Coca-Cola and Fanta. So at least now, we have ministers that are knowledgeable. I was okay, if we stay in Abuja, that will also make it easy for them to attend. And there's no way somebody who is knowledgeable will attend a function and will not pick something from it that can be incorporated into their plan. So picking Abuja for this state advisory was very strategic and it was intentional. How do we go about it that doesn't devolve into the normal talk show? Earlier today, when we were doing the press brief, I said, we're here for business. We're not here just to come and talk. No, we're here for business. Our contributions, we wanted to change mindset. How we have been doing things, we want it to be modified for the better. Create new ways of doing things. And of course, if we have to abandon the process that has not been working, from our international discovery, we want such opportunity to arise. And as I said, government is listening. We may not be seeing the speed of responses as we would love to have it, but they are listening. So all the ministers are lined up to be on ground. We're going to be having business sessions where they're going to be quizzed, where they're going to be telling us about some of the things they are doing. For instance, we would have loved to have the Minister of Works come to talk about why we are using rigid pavement rather than bitumen. Because many people have been arguing about it, they don't know. This is something that the engineering geologists in Nigeria have been canvassing for the last 30 years, that we should be using cement road. So it's not new to us. This is a product of research. It's something we know. Now the minister came all of a sudden and all the construction companies were fighting against him. Because they knew that the moment you start doing such rigid road, there will be no award of contract every 3 years. So what we're saying is that we want to use this Abuja conference to relaunch back into the memory of Nigerians the importance of taking scientific decision to make your judgment. So it will not go back like past conference where we just come and talk. No, it's going to be serious business. And I'm sure the communication that will come out of the discussions will be things that government will be very, very happy to implement. We are not political. We are professionals. We are scientists. We can only give advice based on empirical data. We don't belong to the umbrella or to the broom revolution. We are practicing professionals and we advise based on what we know. All right. And of course, I don't think any government would not want to listen to its professionals. I think government does not listen to its professionals, we feel. So definitely this conference is going to be a earth-shaking conference in terms of the kind of recommendations that's going to come out from the place.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So on this note, we've come to the end of our conversation.
Thank you very much.
I want to say a big thank you for showing up and we wish the NMGS a successful event. Thank
you so much and thank you for having me. And we believe that we can continue to work together to change the narrative in the Nigerian ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.